Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is actually the edited replay of a live that I did on Tuesday. So this is featuring some products from Pretty Pink Posh's new holiday release. I used the Argyle cover plate, Argyle punch hole cover plate. Anyway, I did it in blue and white because I wasn't sure what I was going to do. It's easier to see the holes in the white, but I did end up using the blue. And then the gingerbread friends, I used this with the train the last time. And then I'm also using the gingerbread mug and the Christmas cake pops. Are those not the cutest? So this video is a little bit interesting because I did my die cutting before my live, so that I would have all of the things there. So I recorded those things, and then I recorded the like the finishing up of the card that I didn't get to do in the live. So there are some things included here that aren't included in the live, but I just wanted it to be as cohesive as possible, like one of my normal videos. So I cut the buttons and the gingerbread face out of black. The way that these are positioned together is actually brilliant. So the face with the eyes and the mouth are actually one piece. Same thing with the buttons. So you could actually die cut those pieces out of your gingerbread mug at the same time that you die cut the mug itself, like they would fit in there. And so I was stacking mine on top. That's why I chose to do it in black, but you don't have to. And then everything else I cut out of white because we are going to color it with our alcohol markers. I thought that this was like, it's just so cute. Like the whole set is so cute. And I love the cake pops. Like if you guys have been to my channel before, then you know I do love to bake. The only thing I did differently with this one, like normally I put all of my items into one cup, and I learned my lesson the other day when I did a different candy cane. There are two that they face different directions. Actually, there's two of everything. This is the one that I learned the lesson on. But there's two of everything. Like there's two mugs that face different directions, two whipped creams, two candy canes, and they face different directions, which is really great because then you can, do them. You can do multiples. You can do all of your die cutting at one time. But I did end up, like, it took me a while to kind of pick through the pieces parts when I put them all in the same cup. So that is why you saw me put one candy cane and one set of stripes into another section because I didn't want to mix them up. So now we are coloring our gingerbread mug. So I chose the E30s family, which is in Copics. This is a much warmer brown family, so it's going to read more gingerbread-y. And then I used the like the actual coffee portion to find where the shading should be on the top, and I laid the mug down to find where the shading should be on the sides. After that, when we're looking at an object, typically you're going to have a light source that's going to hit the top of everything. So we're adding our shadows underneath the arms and underneath the legs. Also, the legs are closer together. So we're going to have shading on the inside of the legs and then underneath where the head would sit on the shoulders. So I did those all with my darkest color. And then, of course, there is the darker shading where that mug handle would attach. And then once I did that with my darker colors, I just went in with my mid-tone. Remember, your mid-tones are what you're going to see the most of, whether it is your darker mid-tone or lighter mid-tone. Those are the ones that you are going to see, that you should see, because otherwise we're being too heavy-handed with our shadows, or we're leaving too much of a highlight. So those should be like the most minimal amounts. That's what you can see here is I'm, blending all of these in with that lighter mid-tone. And then I'm going to go in to like the center of his face with the lightest color, and then like the center of his body with the lightest color. You do see me kind of going over the whole thing. The whole purpose is to help those blend, and they blend better in the fibers of the paper the more ink that you have. For a little bit of cookie texture, gingerbready texture, I'm just taking my dark mid-tone and doing kind of like some little dots on his arms, around, it's almost like I gave him a beard, but around the bottom of his face and on his legs. And then I did give him some rosy cheeks with an R32. Now we're going to move on to coloring the coffee portion. I colored it because, we can't just have that area be blank, but his little whipped cream hair really covers up most of it. So I wouldn't overly stress about how that's going to look. And of course, I colored it nice and light, like I like my coffee. So I used the E50s family, a 53, a 55, and a 57, and then just blended those out. And then that will be like the coffee sitting in the mug. I did intentionally choose different browns so that they would be separated from each other. For the mug, I felt like red was going to be a good color, especially because we have that, kind of warmer brown. When you're looking at a mug, we have that again, like how it's the inside of the legs. Well, this is the inside of the handle. So that's where the shading is going to be. And they're also going to have some more shading where it attaches to the mug. So I'm kind of just treating this like a little rainbow arc, and I'm doing my darker colors into, the center, and then working out to the lightest color on just the very edge of the handle. And then, so we don't see any of that white peeking through, I am going to go back and just add some brown to where the coffee's going to go, and just a little red outline to the edges. You don't have to color the whole thing in, just getting the edges is sufficient. And then we're going to glue this guy together. So, if you did not catch this live, which is totally fine, I completely understand, then you probably don't know that I have a new setup. And this is kind of like the way that it was always supposed to be, but when I was originally getting the things set up was right when Mom was really sick. So it didn't all get up, set up the way that it was supposed to. So this past weekend, my absolute rock star of a husband, took time out of his day to not only mount my monitor, to ceiling mount my camera, which I'm going to tell you, he bought me as a Christmas present in 2022. That's how long I've owned it. In an embarrassingly long time. And then, so he did those for me. And then in addition to that, there's all of this technology stuff that is it gets involved with streaming, and like a Stream Deck, and sometimes they're called a switcher. Let's go back to the card. So here I'm doing his little bow tie, and just adding that little bit of darkness on either side of the center is already going to help this to look so much more dimensional. And then I just did 3 lines, top, middle, bottom. I went over that with the mid-tone, and then I used my lightest color to finish filling those in and fill in the center. And then there his adorable little bow tie. I decided to do a bow tie this time because the other card that I did, which I shared over on Instagram, I gave that gingerbread. That one's a holder. She holds a bunch of different things. But anyway, I gave her a bow in her hair instead of a bow tie. So I switched it up this time. And then here, this top hat is actually made for the cake pops, so you could do the snowman. But look, you could make him like a little gingerbread man with a top hat, or this is the other one for the holder add-ons. You could use the little Santa hat, like if you didn't want to do the mug decorations. For the stripes, I'm not sweating the shading on the stripes too much because I know I'm going to put glitter all over them, right? I mean, we're heading into the holidays, so that's part of the reason why we're talking about all the shimmery, shiny detail that we can add. So I did my darkest color on the inside edges of the stripes, and then I just went right over that with my dark mid-tone, which for me is an R29, and just filled them in. This is, like I said, this is why I have to have them separate, because the pieces look so similar. It took me a very long time because I mixed them all up. this little trick I've showed you guys before. Anytime you're doing something striped, I want them to be, traditional candy canes striped with red and white. So I'm going to color the base of it white, and I'm just going to shade the whole thing. It's way easier than trying to shade those, intermittent little pieces. So I did a C5 along the inside edge, then I will go over that with a C3 and then finally a C1. Remember, when we're coloring something white, we do need to leave white in there. So I made sure that that whole outside edge was a true white. Here, I'm showing you how I accidentally picked up some some red because it was on my fingernail. And you can still see it. I said during the live, I gave myself a red French manicure just on that one fingernail. So now I'm going to glue these together. Tweezers are recommended, or a pickup tool, what are those called? I own one. It's a katana, but what's the front part of it? Crystal, like a crystal katana. So anywho, my husband spent all of his weekend putting together all of my things because he is amazing, and I really appreciate it because there is no way that I could have done it by myself. I don't know why it is, and maybe it's because I have a lack of patience. I'm not sure, but I get so frustrated with the technology because you could just be going along. This, for example, okay, so he spent all weekend setting it up for me or whatever. It worked all day on Monday. I had planned to do this live on Tuesday. After, I had groceries delivered or whatever, the kids are in bed, so I come in here and then all of a sudden my connection is flickering. It's flickering constantly, and I'm supposed to be doing a dry run to check it with some other friends. Here's what I'm talking about there. There's actually two different types of gingerbread icing that you can use. You can use the squiggly lines or the curly cues. I'm actually going to use the squiggly lines because the curly cues I'm going to use as a decoration for my little chocolate covered marshmallow. In the cake pop set, you can dress them up as deer or snowman. They have little sticks and everything else. I chose to treat them in this card like a truffle and a chocolate covered marshmallow with my little mug. So I just was switching it up. Here for my marshmallow, I am using those same cool grays. And again, we do want to make sure that we're leaving some white. I'm just adding the shadows where that chocolate covering would kind of be. So then anyway, I come in here Monday evening and it is flickering and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. There is no change in the thing. I cannot figure out what the issue is. I turn everything off and on. I check all of the plugs, all of the things that you would think to do, and it just would not stop. My son had been in here setting up, some things. I bought a remote control and he did set that up for me. And so I was double checking with him. Hey, did you bump anything? Did you change any settings on the camera? Anything. Googling, trying to figure it out. And I'm there's how many people are out there streaming live in the world? It should not be this difficult to find information on how to make this work. Here, so I am using the warm grays. I switched it up between warm grays and cool grays. So I did the cool grays with the marshmallows, the little bitty marshmallows and the big marshmallow. And then I did the warm gray for the icing and the whipped cream. It's just going to help give us some added interest. In the frosting for the gingerbread man, anywhere there is a valley, so where it dips in, I put my shadows, and then I left the peaks white. For the whipped cream, I did a little bit underneath the tippy top there to help that look like it's kind of coming over more. And then I added the shadows to the right hand side of each line. And then again, make sure you're leaving that white. If you want to see this kind of more real time, that live is still up. But I know when we talked about it before, stop it. Look at, you can't even see because my face is ghosted out, but I was so excited. I was so excited about that whipped cream hair. It was the cutest thing I've ever seen. And I'm looking at it right now and I still think it's super cute. I still think it's super cute. So anywho, so I was double checking with my son, like, hey, did you bump anything or whatever? Like, I'm not kidding you guys. I was in literal tears, like so frustrated because I had all of these other overwhelming things that I needed to be doing. This is just a busy week for me. And now here I am having to spend hours and hours again trying to fix something that should have already been working. And then do you know how I fixed it? Me neither. I don't know how I fixed it either because it just started working. And now today is Thursday. Now it's been Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 4 days, and it hasn't broke again. What the problem is, I don't know. I literally don't know. I do not know why it did it, and I do not know why it stopped doing it. I pray, Lord Jesus, that it does not do it again. Because it was so frustrating. So there I used some cool grays to color my truffle, kind of like a cooler brown. And then I'm going to use the E20s family. This one lends itself really well to coloring chocolate. Honestly, because that's what they named him after. Like one of them is called cocoa. One of them is called milk chocolate. So I'm leaving a little bit of an edge down at the bottom for my highlight. And then I am, from the darkest color to the dark mid-tone, I'm kind of stretching it up towards the top. And then I will leave a highlight at the top as well. Here I'm going in just extending slightly past that darkest color with the dark mid-tone, and then for my lightest color I'm filling in the ends completely, and then taking this all the way up to the top where I will leave my little highlight section, and I'm going to color the marshmallow the same way. If you're not happy with your blend, of any color really, just try going over it a little bit more, and if it's not blending well, check to make sure you don't need to re-ink your marker, because sometimes we do need to do that to make sure they're nice and juicy and there's enough ink to blend everything together. So needless to say, because everything is new, like there are some things that needed to be tweaked. Do you remember back when I first got this camera, we had the issue with the autofocus, which I fixed? Well, I don't know what we did, but this time, I was in the middle of a live the other day and it kept getting blurry, and I was like, oh, I bet you that autofocus got turned back on. Sure enough, it had. And then I have lots of lights in front of me because I need them for filming so that everything is nice and bright and you can see it. But apparently, if you look down in that bottom corner, it was hysterical. I was like, you look like a ghost, because I have no face. I have no face. Just because it was so bright. So I have turned the lights. So hopefully that's no longer an issue in the future, and I will have a face in the in the lives. Here I am doing this. I wanted to do it kind of like maybe a little caramel swirl. And so for when we're doing this, we do need to pick what side will be on the top. So just make sure you're consistent. When I chose that the right hand side was going to be the side that went underneath, so I added shadows to the left and the right hand side of that top curly Q, and then went to my mid-tone and then to my lightest color. Now I used that Ease 50s family again, and it wasn't caramely enough. It needed to be a little bit warmer. So I just grabbed the, I think it's the 35 or the 30, it's the 33, and just went right over top of that just to make it a little bit warmer. And then we will get our little sweet treats together and build those up. This was super fun to make and to put together, and I loved being able to interact with everybody. My lives are a little bit longer, even this one. I prepped the die cutting and everything else. I was prepared as I could be. Coloring just takes a long time. So, I did what I did. I think I was able to get it done in an hour and 20 minutes. And I still had to finish it kind of after the fact. Because I didn't have the sentiment. And then once I was looking at it, I was like, oh, there's some other things that I could do. There's some other things that I could do here. but that's totally okay. So adding, your shimmer and your shine and your sparkle and all of those wonderful things, I thought like it would be a good time to kind of talk about that because we're heading into the holiday season and I love to do scenes. I love to do holiday scenes. I love to do any scenes, really. But I also like to add those little details in. So I, did it like they were sitting on this little gray countertop. And, I had all these little accoutrements, these little accessories for their little sweet wishes. But one of the things that can kind of take our card from, oh, I really like that, to, oh my gosh, I love that, is the extra things that we can do. So what are a couple of ways that we can add kind of sparkle and shine to our cards? Well, first, the very simple one is just like a clear glitter pen. I have one from Zig, the Clear Wink of Stella, that I love. I have one from Tonic that is a clear glimmer that I also like. And I have one from scrapbook.com. They're all great. It doesn't matter, which one you prefer, but it's a nice way to add subtle shine. You don't just have to get the clear. They have them in a bunch of different colors. They have them in golds and silvers. And that is a nice way that we can add kind of that extra like glimmer and stuff to our cards. The next thing that I always, I'm a huge advocate for here, now that we've got like those layers glued down, I'm going to go in and do my shadows. And again, I'm using those same cool grays, starting with my darkest and then working out to my lightest. I did do, I did the C7 and the C5, and then I kind of backed off and see, there's the blurry thing that I had to fix. So I kind of backed off of that because I knew that I was going to have to do more shadows for like the tiny marshmallows and the candy cane. So I just waited to do those to blend them in. Something of note with the candy cane. So the candy cane is kind of propped up against our marshmallow and against our little gingerbread guy. So his shadow, or her, whatever the candy cane is, their shadow, is going to touch on the bottom where it's, like the top part of the hook is, and then it's going to touch at the bottom where the bottom of the candy cane is. But in between, it will still have a shadow, but that shadow is not going to touch the candy cane because it's kind of hovering above at that angle. So this is super easy to do. You just follow that same line, but it's something that gives our card like a ton of dimension. So anyway, back to the shimmer and shine. One of the things that I really love to do is Stardust stickles. Any kind of stickles are great. You can get them in a bunch of different colors. They have like a Christmas red and a green and all of those. I like the Stardust ones because it takes on the color of whatever is behind it. So I find it to be the most versatile, and then I just, can just invest in that one color. So here's me using that clear Wink of Stella. Then I also used the Stardust stickles onto the candy canes, the bow tie. I added some little stripes of it onto my little whipped cream as well. And then, now remember, I did this and then I had to come back to it because I ran out of time. So I did that as the glitter, and then I'm also going to bring in some glossy accents. Glossy accents is really great because it adds shine. It makes it look like it's an enamel sticker, but it's really easy to use. And so I used this on my buttons. I used it on the chocolate to add a little bit of shine toward the bottom, as well as the caramel, like little loop-de-loops. I'm going to add some details with this white gel pen to, further add some character and some shine. And then that was it for the live. So then when I came back to it, I was like, what am I going to do for this sentiment? I was originally going to use the, what was it? Sweet Merry Sweet Christmas Sweet Merry Christmas. I can't remember. It's in the gingerbread set, the stamp set. But this Sweet Merry Wishes, I thought fit better. But I wanted to stack it. Because I have this kind of like area in the top left that needs to be filled for balance. So here's how I'm creating these little labels to stack them. Okay, I masked everything with a piece of tape except for the wishes. I inked it up, removed the tape, stamped it down. Then I scooted my paper down, and then I masked just the sweet, and then inked it up the Merry Wishes, and so on and so forth. I need a little bit of room in the front, so that was my fault. I made that mistake in the first time that I stamped it. This time, I was able to mask it with the tape and then just stamp the sweet, because I need the little bit in the beginning, because after I put this all together, I realized the only thing that I colored green was his bow tie. I had no other green in my card. So in order to kind of tie everything together, you guys know I like everything to, be kind of copacetic. I decided that I was going to trim them into little layers. And then in the Cake Pops set, it has these cute little stars, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to do like white, red, and green, or 2 greens and a red. So here I'm just kind of coloring. I marked them. I'm just kind of coloring. There's 6 little stars that will cut out, and so I'm lining those up with that, and then that way I can kind of pull them off and lay them there. So I ended up going, I didn't like the variety pack. I didn't like the variety pack. So I ended up going with just all green, and then I used the other ones, like I cut 2 of the stars, and then I used the other ones to just sprinkle the green kind of in between the marshmallows. So it did give me that visual triangle. We have the green at the bottom, the green at the mid layer, and the green in the top left. So those worked really well. And in order to adhere the stars, I did use that, the crystal katana, and it worked great. So once I got those down, then, I'm back on the shimmer train, because now everything is dry. Oh, I do want to mention that I did add some white gel pen over, like along the backside of the candy cane on the bottom once my glitter was dry. So here I've popped everything up on a little bit of foam tape. I start with the middle one because it's easiest to get them straight and level and even when we start with the middle. And then so I can put the one above and the one below and make sure that they are the correct width apart. And now here I'm going to go back in, and for the whole star I did the zig again, but then I also went in and just did a little dot of Stardust stickles. And but you can use, like, I know for other winter cards, like I've used the rock candy glitter from Tim Holtz. I'll probably do that again, maybe some snow. So I hope that this helps you kind of find easy ways to kind of take your card up with your shimmer and shine. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.